We know that becoming literate is greatly facilitated by a familiarity with text and a love of book language, and books should be shared and talked about on a daily basis. Through really rich experiences with text, children identify themselves with the language and the content of stories, songs, and rhymes. It's important that we provide a range and a breadth of high quality children's literature, because that allows children to see themselves reflected in both the language, the characters, and the events of stories. But we really have to ensure that we have enough text that authentically represent all of our readers. Now, as has been observed in the Children's Book Center at the University of Wisconsin-Madison School of Education book diversity data in the US, and also our own Reflecting Realities survey in the UK, there's much to do to increase the number of texts to be available to do this. But where there are quality examples, these should be absolutely integral to classroom provision. Here are two such texts that you can see here that are centered around very real and very everyday experiences for all children. Positive role models and relationships are exemplified. They echo very specific experiences for some children, but without excluding others. If you look at the example from Lulu's Nana Visits by Anna McKinn, you'll see that all children will have experience of having their hair brushed or combed or styled in some way. But this particular experience that's exemplified in the illustration here by Rosalind Beardshaw will resonate really specifically with some children who may be less likely to see their lives represented in text. And that builds with them an even more special connection with the reading and an investment in that search for meaning. There's much to do with young children before that programme of phonics teaching begins to lay the foundations for engaging children with speaking, listening, reading and writing, and to immerse children in books, songs, rhymes and playful experiences. I'm going to share with you over the next series of slides some books that really specifically help children to connect with some of those experiences that develop their early phonological awareness. Learning how to listen, first off, is increasingly important in a very fast-paced world that is now full of distraction between children. And this example from a book called Quiet by Kip Elizadeh is a perfect example of how to focus children in onto listening and discriminating between sounds, but also describing sounds using a variety of onomatopoeic words. In this book, the child with their carer goes and visits different locations in the house and they listen for different sounds, and you'll see the words in the background of the slide describing those sounds in words. We can talk about which are loud sounds, which are quiet sounds, which sounds sound very similar, which sounds sound different. They can be inspired to go on a listening walk around their own environment to make a picture book spread of their own that describes the different sounds that they can hear. As Dom's already said, rhythm and rhyme are fundamentally important to children's linguistic development. And that new research from Goswami and the team at the University of Cambridge that he mentioned shows that those speech rhythm patterns are the key to language acquisition. So a core base of familiar rhymes and songs need to be in place to support children to hear and replicate these patterns. This is a lovely poem called Wibble Wobble Clown from a poetry collection called Big Green Crocodile by Jane Newbury. And you can see in the text of this page, children will be able to join in with these words and phrases to hear, to replicate those patterns, but also to engage physically. They can stretch right up and reach right down to emphasize and consolidate the meaning of words read from the beginning. And if these are printed out and displayed in the classroom or printed out as rhyme cards, children are then in that first step of connecting the spoken word with the written. As they learn the rhyme in their heads, they can reread it on the page and start doing things like one-to-one correspondence and recognizing words written down. This is a lovely book for engaging adults as well. On every page, there's a suggestion for the adults to join in and to do activities with the child alongside. Because in that act of reading, you're not only teaching those literate acts and those literate behaviors, you're creating that special connection between an adult, a child, and a book, which again is one of those motivating factors characters to want to read.